And that huge problem is it's too fun. I've only been playing it for a few days and I'm already addicted. So before you go off and experience that fun for yourself, why don't you stick around for a few minutes and I'll give you a glimpse into everything that is in Dani's Crab Game. Crab Game is a game that is inspired by the Netflix show Squid Game, where a group of players are put in a series of children's games in a battle royale style round system. Players that survive the first game are put into the next round and compete in the following game, and this repeats until either one player is left or all players are eliminated. And if you do manage to become the victor of Crab Game, you will be blessed with the absolute beauty that is the windscreen. Oh, and a couple million of whatever currency your computer is set to. Now we've seen that, let's move on to the maps and game modes, and due to there being so many maps and game modes, I've split them up into a few groups, starting with the PvP group. This is the group of game modes and maps where players are specifically set up against each other. This is the group with the most modes, those modes being Tag, Hide and Seek, Bomb Tag, and Hat King. All of these modes are available on all of the following maps, starting off with two small maps, the Small Playground and Tiny Town, with the Tag game mode. The Tag mode is a pretty simple mode where a few players start off with a stick and a red outline. These players are the ones currently tagged. In order to tag another player, they must chase someone, catch up to them, and eventually smack them with the stick in order to make that player the new tagger. This then makes them safe again until they are back to being tagged. Tag is quite a long game mode with roughly 2 minutes of gameplay, and whichever player is having the stick at the end of this time being eliminated. Now we have Playground and Playground 2, both of which are classed as medium-sized maps, and you can see in the background gameplay right now with the Bomb Tag mode. The Bomb Tag mode is similar to Tag, where a player starts off tagged, except in this mode they have a bomb that they have to pass on to another player, and after a certain amount of time the bomb explodes, eliminating whichever player had it when it detonated. The bomb also spawns 1 to 3 times per round, depending on the amount of players alive at the start of the round, removing a decent quantity of players. Next up are the two big maps in this group, and the only maps classified as big in the game as a whole, Funky Field and Blue Line, with the game mode Hide and Seek. Hide and Seek is a lot more like Run and Seek, but it's still very fun. The game mode is based on a few random players becoming the seekers at the start of the round and being given a, sharp ruler, where their objective is to eliminate another player by the end of the round or face elimination themselves. Although it is worth bearing in mind, if a seeker eliminates a player, they become a hider and can themselves be eliminated by any remaining seekers. Finally, we have the last two maps in this group, Sandstorm and Lanky Lava, with the game mode Hat King. The Hat King game mode is basically the reverse of all other game modes in the PvP group, where the objective is to remain the king of the hat for the longest amount of time and build up the most points, as the absolute beta noobs with the least amount of points at the end of the round are, you guessed it, eliminated. The final thing I want to mention about this group is about Lanky Lava, which has a little trick up its sleeve, and that is every few seconds an alarm will sound and the entire bottom portion of the map fills with lava, something which if you weren't aware of could definitely catch you out. So bearing that in mind, let's move on to the next group of maps and modes. Players versus the elements, also known as the survival group, where the modes and maps in this group are based upon the players trying to survive what the map throws at them. Although don't get me wrong, you can definitely still do a little trolling and eliminate other players if you really want to. The group contains 3 modes and a whopping 12 maps, starting with the Stepping Stone mode. This mode is based on the 7th episode of the Squid Game show, where the contestants are forced to pick between 2 pieces of glass, one that will hold their weight and the other that will crack under their weight and cause them to be eliminated. In Crab Game, this mode has an astonishing 6 maps that can be played, although they are then split up into 2 groups of 3, with one group being the smaller versions of the main maps, so that the lower player counts still have a chance of making it through the round. The main maps in this mode are Glass Jump, which is based on the one in the show, Islands, which is similar to the glass map except this takes place above the ocean, and a platform breaking results in a shivery and frozen elimination. The final map of this mode is then Icy Islands, which is just islands but with everything covered in ice, resulting in slippery and annoying surfaces. In other words, it's just islands but with a healthy dose of Spain without the S. Next up is the mode based on the very first episode of Squid Game, Red Light Green Light, and has 3 maps. Desert, which is a replica of the map in the show, where there is just a large empty area that you have to travel over during the green light phases and stop completely during the red light phases. Plains, which is similar to Desert but is based on a grassy hill and relies on players being even more careful not to move during the red light phase. And Slippery Slope, which is an icy version of the Desert map, except that it also has various items of cover to hide behind to compensate for the slippery floor that can cause more players to move unintentionally than the other maps. Quickly, before we move on, I'd just like to say that yes, moving your mouse to move your player's camera does count as movement and will get you eliminated. Now we have the Floor is Lava mode, which has 3 maps, Crusty Rocks, Ice Rocks, and Lava Lake, and gameplay wise is actually surprisingly similar to the Stepping Stone mode, except that instead of trying to make it from one place to another, the only available land on this map is the platforms, and they randomly fall throughout the duration of the round, forcing players to stay focused and be prepared to jump platform at any given moment or be eliminated. Now back to the maps. The Lava Lake and Crusty Rocks maps are almost identical apart from a colour scheme change, but the Icy Rocks map is a repeat of the last mode, where the Icy map reduces friction and makes the whole mode that bit harder to get past. Now I've explained the 2 major groups, it's on to the minor groups. The first of which being the King of the Hill group, a group that contains a mode that I bet you can't guess. Go on, try. Too slow, it's King of the Hill. Ha, better surprise you there. Anyway, the mode is based on the children's game King of the Hill, where the objective is to be at the top of the hill for the longest. And in Crab Game, this works by getting points based on how long you're at the top of the hill. Although unlike the children's game, you're also given baseball bats to bonk your opponents off the hill. Although if you did play this game with a baseball bat as a child, that would probably explain Twitter. The maps for this group are a bit harder to explain, which is why I gave this mode a group of its own. The way it works is that there are two maps that are exclusively King of the Hill only, and they are Hasty Hill and Small Hill, where Small Hill is just a smaller version of Hasty Hill. And then there's two more maps that can be used for King of the Hill or any of the game modes in the PvP group, being Tag, Bomb Tag, Hide and Seek, and Hat King. These two maps are Twisted Towers and Color Climb. Okay, now we've got that in our noggins, it's time for the final minor group, the Tile Drive group. This group is based on the mode Tile Drive, where 4 teams go up against each other and have to try and make as many of the tiles their team's color by running against and on as many of them as possible. Honestly, I'm not sure where this comes in related to Squid Game, but I guess that's why Dani called it Crab Game and not Squid Game clone 3926. This mode also has 2 available maps, one called Splat and the other called Splot. Don't ask me why they called this, I don't know either. What I do know, however, is that Splot is just a smaller version of Splat. Now I know I said that was the final minor group, and technically that was correct, but there is actually another map in game mode, this being the Dorm map, which acts as both the lobby and the only map for the Lights Out game mode. The Lights Out mode is based on that one episode of Squid Game where the players all game end each other when the power goes off. In Crab Game, this is based on the players getting given random weapons, varying from a stick to a big ass sword to a pistol, so up to the players to decide if they want to try and make peace with each other or game end them all. It is worth noting here that the proximity voice chat that sounds like it was ripped straight out of an Xbox 360 makes this mode about 20 times more fun, as if you have voice activity on, you find yourself physically holding your breath as you see a name tag go past and praying they didn't hear you breathe. Okay, now we've covered all the maps and modes, it's onto the other stuff, starting with the fact that Dani has implemented proximity chat into Crab Game, as I mentioned in the Lights Out section, which personally I find gives it a massive boost and makes the whole experience significantly more fun, and I definitely recommend using voice activation mode.
We chillin', chill. Who just hit me?
But anyway, there's a few bugs I would like to mention that have made it through the testing stage of the game due to the hard deadline Dani set himself in order to get it out in a decent time frame, and a few of these bugs are: the spawning zones are not perfected on most of the maps for some props, where I experienced spawning in a rock and was able to hide and seek like a god. I've also seen a few other players spawn in various props in various maps, although 99% of the time the spawns are fine, so this is only a minor complaint. Next, we have a slightly bigger than small issue on Slippery Slope, where sometimes your character just starts to slip down the hill due to the pure gradient on the slope at the end of the map. Although Dani is definitely aware of this, he even posted a clip of it happening on the Steam page.
Yeah, I get it. Oh! No, we're good. I'm sliding a bit, but... Okay.
And finally, I want to talk about how sometimes hits on other players don't register. Those hits being when you bonk another player with either your fist, a stick in tag, a knife in bomb tag, or any other prop, which can result in a player being eliminated when they shouldn't have been. And if you're on the receiving end of this bug, it's pretty annoying, but once again, it only happens occasionally, so it's not a major issue. I don't really expect Dani to fix it, but it's worth mentioning. Now, as I move past the main bugs and onto other points, I just want to commend how nice and smooth the UI feels, though I've basically come to expect that from any Dani game, and I'm glad it's continuous into Crab Game. Okay, now to mention the multiplayer. It is extremely smooth, especially for peer-to-peer, although obviously it does depend on the host's internet speed, so if you have potato internet, then maybe let someone else host and just join them. But for the most part, the multiplayer is very nice to have, it seems to work well, and most bugs appear just to be visual, although there is obviously the hits not registering thing that I mentioned previously. To conclude, I would definitely give playing Crab Game a go. It's very fun and should give you at minimum a few hours of fun with either your friends in a private lobby or just a bunch of random people in a public lobby. Yes, it's definitely not perfect, but I mean, just look at that price tag. It's literally free and available on Steam, which I have linked in the description. Finally, I want to give a massive thank you to Dani for letting me test Crab Game, as this has allowed me to spend a lot longer in this video than I was able to for my Jelly Drift or Muck videos. Alright, peace.